The documentary No Other Land is directed by a team of Palestinian and Israeli filmmakers. I won't hesitate to say it's one of the most powerful films of the year. I'm Thom Powers, and this is Pure Nonfiction. I'm recording this on the night before the Toronto International Film Festival. This is my 19th year as the festival's documentary programmer. This year, one of the most anticipated films is No Other Land, that was made by a collective of 4 directors, 2 of them Palestinian and 2 Israeli. They spent 4 years in production from 2019 to fall of 2023. They document life in the village Masafer Yatta in the occupied West Bank, where Israeli settlers and soldiers have attacked Palestinian residents for years with violence and home demolitions. One of the film's directors, Basel Adra, grew up in Masafer Yatta. From a young age, he watched his father as an activist documenting the violence. As an adult, Basel continued his father's work. The film opens in 2019 when 2 Israeli journalists arrive in the village. On camera, we see Yuval Abraham, and behind the camera is Rachel Szor. Yuval has high hopes that if he reports to Israeli readers what's happening, it might do some good. He soon learns it isn't that easy to change minds. But Yuval develops an allyship with Basel and the film's 4th director, Hamdan Ballal. The demolitions and violence keep going, and together the 4 filmmakers keep documenting. In one incident, they film an armed settler shooting a young Palestinian named Harun, who's paralyzed by the injury. Harun's family has their home demolished and are forced to move into a cave to care for him. The filmmakers had very nearly finished No Other Land last October when violence in the region escalated to new heights. That was a trauma that broke apart many alliances between Palestinians and Israelis, but somehow this team stayed together. No Other Land premiered at the Berlin Film Festival in February, where it won both the jury and audience awards in the Panorama section. It went on to play several other European festivals, winning more awards. Now this fall, it's coming to North American festivals, including Toronto, Hamdan, and New York. Despite its widespread acclaim, no U.S. distributor has picked it up. The film's backers will bring it to art house theaters in the fall. The only time the 4 filmmakers were able to attend an international festival in person was in Berlin. Since then, it's grown even more difficult for the Palestinian directors to leave their homes, as Basel describes in our interview. It's a terrible missed opportunity. I think of many other films that were made under crisis conditions where at least the filmmakers could still travel. That was the case just last year with the Ukrainian film 20 Days in Mariupol that won the Oscar. Last week, I spoke with Basel and Yuval by Zoom. Basel was speaking from his West Bank village, and Yuval from his home in Jerusalem. I asked Basel to describe his village and what he's been documenting all his life.
Documenting is not just only my village. Basically, we are in a small town on the southern occupied West Bank, and the town called Masafer Yatta, and it's splitting in small villages separated in this area, farmers communities basically that used to live in the past in a good life as a farmers. But what we are filming and what they're gonna see in the movie is how the life of the people became very hard and miserable under the occupation from because of different policies that the Israeli occupation targeting our community with. Mainly the policy of home demolitions and settlers attacks, building settlements, and how families are suffering here from not having their basic rights as a human beings. As well, you can see between the relationship between me and Yuval in the movie, and that is showing also the we're putting it there for the people to understand the difference between the life of Israeli and Palestinian living in this land.
So, Yuval, in the film, we see you come to Masafer Yatta to do reporting in the summer of 2019. Can you describe where you were in your life then?
Yeah, I was just taking my first steps as a journalist. I had recently, at the time, finished studying Arabic, and I became quite fluent in the language, which really was a part of a process of political awakening and change for me. I began learning about what was going on practically. I grew up in an Israeli town in the southern area, so it was not so far away from Masafer Yatta. So I began understanding through meeting Basel, what is life 25 minutes away, people who are living under a military regime, who are being forced out of their lands, who have no voting rights. And I think for me it was, when I began going to Masafer Yatta and meeting Basel, it was a very, I think a very important moment for me personally, like as a journalist, but mainly, as a human being who lives in this land and grew up here and changed as I grew up. So that's where I was pretty much when I first came to Masafer Yatta in 2019, and I came together with Rachel Szor, who is a cinematographer, and we met Basel and Hamdan, and this is how we formed this collective of filmmakers. We began, working as activists on the ground, basically trying to find ways to stop this process of the destruction of the Masafer Yatta community, through documenting on social media, through protests on the ground, alongside other activists. And at a certain point, we felt that we had to also make a film out of what we were doing, and to really focus on this story and on ourselves as activists, as young people, as this Israeli-Palestinian collective who is trying to get some kind of political change in this land.
So, Basel, you've seen journalists come and go from your village. When did this project seem to feel like it was something different?
Well, we planned it to be something different. Basically, me and Yuval and the other two directors, Rachel and Hamdan, all working have been in this field of activism, of journalism, working and writing articles and publishing articles, stories of the community. But even us as journalists start to think that we need something different as well, to make our voice and our story, the story of the community, reaches to new audience, to new people, because this is our goal, have been from the beginning always, that we need, at least for me, we want people to know about us, that we're living here, that we're suffering this suffer, and people should know what's happening to us as Palestinians living in these conditions. And one day we were sitting together, and Hamdan, who's the other co-director, said, let's do a movie about what's going on here. And for us all was the first experience of working on this project. We started 5 years ago almost, and we began from the zero almost, but we have a lot of archive footage for the last 20 years. And Rachel started to follow us and film us in the home, in the field, when we are working, when we are in our daily life. And we wanted to show everything about the community. We wanted to show the happiness moments, the life of the people, the suffering, and the political situation, because the strategy of the occupation here, it's to make different actions in different timeline, or in different times, which is to not let it look as a one thing and one policy. You have sometimes they want to demolish a whole community and everyone focus there, and you have a pogrom of settlers that happening in different communities, so that became the news. As something big happened in another place, that's the news. But this is all things are tied together, what they are doing, and all the things that they are doing has one goal. And this is basically what we wanted to tell the people, that all of these together are connected. The Settlers of Violence is is not just random settlers want to do it. It's a policy. The same policy that the occupation wanted to destroy the homes, the schools, to prevent us from having clean water, electricity, and streets, clinics, is the same goal, which is to steal our land. So this is what we wanted through this movie to tell the people.
Yuval, during the 5 years of making the film, you were also doing regular reports, posting shorter videos and writing articles. And we see in the film at times you express disappointment and frustration that things that you're writing aren't getting as much attention as you'd like. In fact, Basel says to you in the film, get used to failing. And I wonder what you have seen with your reporting for an Israeli audience during this period from 2019 to 2023, how your reports were being received, and just the general attitude of people around you about you doing this work.
I think it's a really good question, Tom, because I think for me, one of the biggest takeaways that I have learned, I think, from spending years together with Basel and Masafer Yatta is how much the law is used as a weapon in a way in the West Bank, the military law, because when I write to the Israeli audience in Hebrew, and at least when I wrote, all of this is before October and a lot of things changed, but from 2019 to 2023, when I was writing about the policy of house demolitions. So, every week, and this is still ongoing, and as you can see in the film, the Israeli military sends bulldozers and destroys a house of a family in Masafer Yatta. And for me, being there, watching it, it's you see people basically being forced violently out of their house, and then having to watch a foreign military raise down their house, and they are left there. They have nowhere to go. Often they sleep outside, like under the sky. They lose all of their memories. And every week a different house, every week a different family, and nobody knows who it will be. Nobody knows who will be next. And when you approach the soldiers, they tell you this is the law. These are people who built illegally. They broke the law. And this is the main response that I would receive from the Israeli audience or the Israeli society. They are criminals. They are just breaking the law. And it was, for me, bewildering because, first of all, we have to ask whose law? The laws in the West Bank are created by the military, and Palestinians cannot control this law that is ruling their lives and is allowing the settlements to expand, but the Palestinian villages are being destroyed. And that's the first thing. I mean, the second thing is that the law is systematically preventing Palestinians in the West Bank from receiving legal building permits. 99% of the requests of Palestinians are declined by the military. So to get back to your question, I mean, for me, this is a major thing that I tried to make clear in my writing, that the law, the fact that something is legal by some law does not mean that it's just. And there are times in history, and I think, especially Jewish people should know that, from our history, there are times in history where the law is actually used as a weapon against you. It is used as a way to, as Basel said, to take your lands or to force you, outside of your homes. And it was interesting, like the main comment I received, it was about the law. They should respect the law. Like this insistence that things are legal, that there is this system of law. And I think our film really shows how much that system is corrupt, how much that system is not a just system.
Basel, at that moment in the film when you say to Yuval, get used to failing, in the spirit of that, lots of reporting happens and little changes over the years. How do you, keep your energy going in the face of what other people might feel is futility?
I don't know if I agree with you. It's energy, especially you're talking about today and this time, like after we finish the movie. It's really, and these days are very dark and very much hopeless. But it's also, and somehow it's energy, but in somehow it's not. But mainly it's us Palestinians who live this life. It's not people coming from outside and want to be in solidarity, want to help. It's our life, and we know that this have been happening since decades. And we look at the bigger picture, where we see that Israel is still very much supported from the West by weapons, by money, by everything they want, and there is no consequences on what they are doing at all. So this shows to us that what we are going through gonna be long, and this is need a lot patience, and we have to find always different ways to deal with it if it's possible. So this is, I think, this is the main difference, that when you live under this whole unjust, you understand, like it's a system. It's like it's very much, it's a lot of power it's doing this to you.
I mean, you describe in the film, you use the word patience, that you hope that the work that you're doing, if you're patient enough, will have some kind of payoff. And I wonder, how you think about that long-term goal.
Yeah, patient. It's because we know that our work, the path that we're going through, which is journalism, activism, and writing and publishing, and our goal is to reach to the audience on the ground, to the Americans, to the people in Canada, to the people in Europe, that they should know where their money is going and what is their money is doing to our life. And what I believe, at least, when these people find out, they won't be silent. They will stood for it, and this is what I thinking in the long term. The people will find out if we keep doing this and keep showing them the truth. So one day something will change, and I know that this way it's very long and gonna take a lot of time and a lot of energy, and you always need to always try to find the different way how to make these things reach to the audience, through articles, through videos, through no other land. But we have to continue doing this.
Yuval, your team spent 4 years making this film, and you were finishing it up last October when this whole new round of violence escalated. And I wonder, what that meant for your team of 4 directors.
October was extremely difficult. On October 7th, 3 people that I know were killed. And 2 weeks later, one of my good friends in Gaza, his entire family was killed. So 21 people were, and so many people that we love and care about are. Death basically is everywhere. And I remember us talking, during that month and saying, basically all of our work, everything that we are doing is an attempt to stop the people who live in this land from dying. It's a realization that I think we all have, that the only future that can be possible is one where there is a political solution, that everybody needs to be free in this land, between in the Holy Land. And the situation where, and I think we portrayed in our film, and my presence in the film and Basel's presence, the situation where me and Basel are the same age, but I have a state and I can move around freely in the land, and millions of Palestinians like Basel are just controlled by Israel. They're living under military occupation. It's not only unjust, it's also not sustainable. It's not something that you can expect, when your neighbor is suffering so much. It's you cannot expect to have a normal life. And I think as people who are young and who we want our children and our grandchildren to be able to live normal lives, we understand that in order to do that, there has to be a political solution. And after October and it's still ongoing, every day I check, just today 40 or 50 Palestinians in Gaza were killed. So have the hostages, you have thousands of Palestinians who were taken by Israel, and so it's not ending. And I think for us, it's on the one hand, it makes us very hopeless because things are getting worse, and there is no, I don't think there is enough international pressure, especially from the United States, to have consequences for the military occupation. So on the one hand, it's getting worse. And on the other hand, I feel it shows how important it is what we are doing and our film and our work together, and how important it is to continue fighting for a political change, because there really is no other way, and sadly it's going in the opposite direction of what we are trying to do. But for me, it makes me both hopeless, but then at the same time, I feel much stronger about the work that we are doing and about its importance.
Basel, in the film, we see in October, while the world's attention was shifting to Gaza, there was also violence escalating in your village. A cousin of yours gets shot by armed Israeli settlers who are attacking the village. Can you talk about the things that you were going through in last fall after October 7th?
Yeah, I mean, talking about the West Bank in general, it's like, to be honest, there is like we call it silent war, that there's no attention, but it's a war. There is hundreds of Palestinians have been killed both by Israeli soldiers and settlers since October. And the life has changed very much. Talking about the communities like in Masafer Yatta, Jordan Valley, and tens of others of Palestinians, like small villages around, have not been able to, for example, to pick their olive trees, to cultivate the land, to graze their sheep, and many of them have been attacked and shot by Israeli soldiers. Settlers, just for being in the field, have been also kidnapped and tortured in military bases, in Israeli prisons. For the communities like ours, they have been under lockdown. Settlers would drive like their bulldozers with the soldiers, and they close many of villages' entrances, disconnected from the city, and disconnect the villages from other villages. In my area, 6 small communities have fled out of their homes due to settlers and soldiers attacks and threatening to the families during the night. If they would not leave their home in 24 hours, they would be shot to death. So hundreds of people fled out of their homes. Demolitions of structures has increased a lot, very much than before. Settlers have, like, all the time, they're building and expanding settlements and outposts and farms, taking more land and preventing Palestinians to reach to their land. And if they do, they will be attacked. Like, life became very very scary in this area. Many of these settlers, even those that have been sanctioned by US and other countries, they are soldiers that controlling our life. Like you can imagine that this soldier that everybody know that is violent. There's so much document that this person should be in jail or brought to justice, is the one actually imposing the law on us as a Palestinians. So it's very hard, even for me as an activist. You watch the movie today, it's like I am not able to run around like before. Very very few times that I go out of my village to go film outside. It's very very dangerous and very very scary.
In other words, what we see in the film, which is already a life controlled by military, has gotten even worse since the time of the film.
Yes, it got worse.
I asked you at the beginning of our conversation, where I was reaching you, and I was encouraged to hear that you say that you're speaking from Masafer Yatta, because at the end of the film, it looks like the situation has gotten so bad that I was left unsure whether you'd still be able to be there. Can you talk about what the situation is right now that allows you to be there?
I mean, we like in my community and many other communities still like living on our homes. But what I'm telling you is we're not able to practice the life that was under the occupation, like to go out with the sheep and to go to the field to work it. Today, very very few people that can reach to their fields. Many of them have been arrested and tortured, and even though settlers start to come, like in my village today, what changed? Settlers start to use the road is to go to their outpost and to come down to the main road, which is thing that they didn't do before, and they harass people on their way. In other villages, they come to graze their sheep next to the family's homes, like next to the door of the family, and looking for escalation, and then they attack and they beating like women and men and children in that house. And for sure, when the military come, they support the settlers. They shoot like bullets, tear gas, sun grenades, and then arrest few people, taking them to jail, make them pay high fine, and then bring them back home. So settlers start to come look for like many escalations and attacking inside people's homes, next to the home, next to a school, because people are not able to reach to their fields even. So they would come to do the escalation in the village. As you saw, like my cousin was shot just after he finished the prayer on Friday. He was like, the settler came down with another soldier and another settler, and so easy shot him in the stomach. Before 1 month, this settler, the same one, came and attacked Israeli left-wing activists in my village. The same settler, like instead of being in jail, he's out and he have been able to attack another people, and he's not even brought to interrogation like for attacking another people.
Yuval, these days, what is your ability to travel to the West Bank and do the kind of reporting that you were doing before in the movie?
So my freedom of movement is not dramatically affected. I think it again shows the difference between me and Basel. But my car has a yellow license plate, which means that yellow cars, they're like the Israeli cars, they can move around. Like I can go from my house in Jerusalem and I can go to Basel's house directly, and then from Basel I can go to the sea, to Tel Aviv, and I can go, and nobody will stop me. While Basel's car has a green license plate, which is a Palestinian license plate, which means it is locked in the West Bank. It cannot leave the West Bank. So Basel cannot do the opposite, cannot go to Jerusalem to meet me from my house where I'm talking right now and go to. So it's a very one-sided sort of. The checkpoints are like in a way invisible, like the ones that are on the border in the West Bank. For Israelis, they're almost invisible. For Palestinians, they are very visible. They are like a barricade. So I'm still able to go. I was just a few days ago with Basel. We were in one of the villages that it's called Zanuta. It's one of the villages that was depopulated after October. So as Basel said, the residents fled due to threats for their lives. They were afraid to be killed. So and now some of the residents decided they're going to try to come back. And when they reached that village, they saw that all of their houses, including the school, everything was destroyed. So they had nowhere to go. Basically, the settlers who live in an outpost 200 meters away came with a bulldozer, the settlers, not even the army, and just destroyed all of the classrooms, all of the houses. And they're not sure what to do. And when they tried to, at least to fix something, they put like a sheet of cloth so they will have something over their heads. Immediately, the military came and told them, you're not allowed to build. It's illegal to build. And they confiscated the cloth and you know what do you do in front of something like this? I mean, the power imbalance is so stark, and yes, there is pressure now that is rising. I mean, there is more and more sanctions now happening against specific settlers, and I actually think that what Canada did, Canada sanctioned Amana, which is one of the main organizations that is funding the settlement enterprise. And that was kind of like a first step. Like the United States didn't do something exactly similar, where Canada did not only target the individual settlers who are, using this violence, but also institutions that are in the background and supporting them. And this had a lot of impact. Like you could tell that this is already something that the settler community in the West Bank is afraid of. And I think that. Yeah, I just remember that, to say that I personally believe that more actions like this that are looking more institutionally to apply pressure is one path that I see that will cause perhaps political change. But yeah, in my work as a journalist, like lately I've been more focused on long-term investigations. Much is related to Gaza in what I'm doing right now, because it's very hard not to place your attention there in a way, but as Basel said, a lot is going on in the West Bank, and often the media ignores it.
Basel, I want to ask, when you watch the film today, what's a scene that stands out to you? Maybe a scene that you wouldn't expect other viewers to take meaning from, but of everything that this film captures over several years and the archival footage, what's a scene that's especially memorable to you?
Watching the movie is not easy for me, to be honest, like being as a character watching myself in a movie. But if you ask me about specific thing, to be honest, I always think about Harun and Harun's family. That this guy lost his life for only like want to trying to build something, a shelter. And I wish that people like should learn like how injustice our life is, and what this like brutal occupation is doing to us. Even if you're trying to build like something, like they want to destroy it, even if that like cost your life. And Harun's and his family is the most tragic family like stories for us here.
Basel, since October, I've read about Palestinian and Israeli allies who have become more fractured because of all the extra trauma and tension. And I wonder, what you've learned with your colleagues about staying together in allyship under times of the highest pressure.
Well, the Israelis that comes to our area, that they're activists with us, they're in the activism field. Together, we believe more than ever that we need this need to have a solution to end the violence, and the solution should change the roots of and the cause of the problems. And I think the cause of the problems and the violence is the occupation. This is what I believe. And everybody comes here is sharing the same values with us. So and our work, the work that we are doing together as allies is exactly to not to reach to a solution, and not through the solution through a violence. It's the opposite, through talking and confronting the occupation forces by staying in our communities, trying to improve our life requirements, and always put pressure on the Western world, because Israel is getting so much support and money and weapons from the US, from Europe, and this is what should be. I believe the solution would come from there, because very much of the power is coming from there, and if they want a change, they can do it. US can stop doing vetoes against the Palestinians in the UN Security Council. It should like put conditions or sanctions on the weapons that is sending to Israel, to the money that's sending to the settlements, to the settlers, to the to whatever being used against the Palestinians here. When that will start, I think solution can come and everybody can have better life and better conditions.
Yuval, from your side, since October, as divisions grow starker and hatred grows more intensive, I can imagine that there, are people around you who would say, why are you doing this peacenik stuff with Palestinians? What have you learned about keeping alliances together?
Today it's, Tom, maybe the only thing that is keeping me sane and keeping me who I am, because so much, people that I thought were my friends in the in the Israeli society, in a way turned their back. And generally speaking, Basel spoke about values and about how we are sharing the same values, and I think it's true. We see the injustice and we want it to end, and we want a future where everybody in the land, Palestinians and Israelis, has a good life and has freedom. We want the occupation to end. And it's very rare. I mean, I feel that if I speak now about the Israeli community, which I know a lot about, and the Israeli left community, it became smaller after October. And as a journalist who was always writing in Hebrew, and I began writing in English, and especially now with the film, we are doing a lot of things in English, and this is new to me. Having an audience that is English speaking. And I was used for years just to speak with the Israeli society, just to write in Hebrew I'm doing that much less now, and it's difficult because yes, you receive a lot of criticism. And yeah, you can be called a traitor, but it's at the end of the day, I feel that I will be a traitor to my values and to what I think is right, and to what I think will be helpful for the future. If I, because of that, stop standing with Basel and fighting the military occupation and dreaming of a future of justice and equality for the people who live here. So all of these questions are now it's all very fresh. I think we don't really know how to deal yet with everything that we are seeing. And I hope I can start writing in Hebrew more, like I used to do. But right now it's we're with the film. We hope that the film is really seen by millions of people. We're especially Canada and the United States. This is now, I think, it's just premiering now in the American continent. It hasn't been seen there at all. And we still need to understand how to really get it out with distribution, and we don't know what will happen, but we hope that people will be interested and that it will move people, and that they will that it will spark important conversations.
I want to thank Basel Adra and Yuval Abraham for speaking with me. Their co-directors are Hamdan, Ballal, and Rachel Szor. Their film, No Other Land, is playing several festivals, including Toronto, Camden, and New York. It will be released in theaters this fall. We have a newsletter called Doc Voices, written by Anisha Javeri. You can find it by searching on Substack for Pure Nonfiction. If you want to advertise to our 40,000 readers, send an email to listen@purenonfiction.net. Thanks to our team, series producer Hannah Nordenswan, partnership manager Bella Racklin, and web designer Cross Strategy. Our theme music is composed by Andre Williams, and our executive producer is Raphael Nehausen. I'm Thom Powers. Follow us on Instagram and visit our website at purenonfiction.net.